It is an image of horror so profound, it feels ripped from a nightmare, a method of execution so exquisitely brutal it seems to belong more to the realm of demonic fantasy than to human hands. An enemy is captured, slammed to the ground, and held fast. A blade is drawn. But this is not for a quick, merciful death. This is for something else entirely. The skin of the back is flayed open. The ribs are systematically hacked away from the spine one by one, and then wrenched outwards, twisted to form a pair of grotesque, blood-soaked wings. And then, in the final, unthinkable act of cruelty, the lungs are pulled from the still-breathing body and laid out upon these macabre wings, their last, desperate spasms mimicking the fluttering of a dying bird. This is the blood eagle. For centuries, it has stood as the ultimate symbol of Viking savagery, a ritual supposedly reserved for the most reviled of enemies. And according to the epic Norse sagas, its most famous victim was a real English king named Ælla of Northumbria, his crime to have murdered the legendary Viking hero, Ragnar Lodbrok. By casting him into a pit of vipers, his punishment, delivered by Ragnar's vengeful sons, would become one of the most enduring and terrifying tales of the entire Viking age. But this is where the story shatters. This is where the bedrock of historical certainty crumbles into the shifting sands of legend. Because for all its gruesome fame, for all its chilling appearances in our television shows and video games, a profound and deeply divisive question has haunted historians for decades. Did the blood eagle ever actually happen? Was King Ælla truly subjected to this nightmarish fate? Or is this horrifying story nothing more than a ghost, a literary invention born from misread poetry and a Christian obsession with painting the pagan Northmen as inhuman monsters? The search for the answer plunges us deep into the heart of the Viking world, a world of warrior codes, sacred vengeance, and storytelling traditions where the line between history and myth is perilously, dangerously thin. It's a journey that forces us to confront not only the brutal realities of the 9th century, but also the very nature of how we interpret the past. The story of King Ælla and the Blood Eagle isn't just a tale of revenge. It's a detective story, a cold case, where the key pieces of evidence are separated by centuries of silence, and the truth may be far more complex and far more elusive than any saga could ever capture. Let's travel back in time. Picture the year 866. The Anglo-Saxon kingdoms of England are a fractured patchwork of rival territories. Northumbria, a powerful kingdom in the north, is tearing itself apart. Its king, Osbert, has been violently overthrown and replaced by a man the sources call a tyrant, a usurper with no rightful claim to the throne. His name is Ælla. He has clawed his way to power, but his grip is fragile, his kingdom in turmoil. And across the gray expanse of the North Sea, a storm is gathering, a Viking fleet, a vast armada larger than any seen before, is preparing to descend upon England's shores. The medieval vital signs. The medieval chronicles would later give it a name that still inspires dread: the Great Heathen Army. Its arrival wouldn't just be a raid. It would change the course of English history forever. Leading this force are the sons of the legendary Ragnar Lodbrok, figures who are themselves shrouded in myth. Ivar the Boneless, Björn Ironside, Sigurd Snake in the Eye. And they aren't just coming for gold or land. They are coming for revenge. To understand the legend of Ælla's horrific end, you first have to understand the story that set it in motion. The act that allegedly sealed his doom. This story doesn't come from the dry, matter-of-fact annals of English monks. It comes to us from the rich, bloody, and dramatic tapestry of the Norse sagas. Texts like the tale of Ragnar's sons Ragnarsona Wetter, which were written down centuries after the events they claim to describe. According to these epic poems and prose narratives, the great Viking hero Ragnar Lodbrok, a scourge of kings, a force of nature, A legend in his own lifetime found himself shipwrecked on the hostile coast of Northumbria. He was captured by King Ælla, but even in chains, Ragnar was defiant. He was a lion, and he would not be tamed. Ælla, seeking to make an example of this infamous Northman, ordered him to be executed in a uniquely cruel fashion. He was thrown into a pit filled with venomous snakes. The Sagas paint an unforgettable picture of Ragnar's final moments. He doesn't beg for his life. He doesn't cry out in fear. He faces his agonizing death with a warrior's snarling pride, famously proclaiming how the young pigs would grunt if they knew what the old boar suffers. This wasn't just a boast, it was a threat and a prophecy. The young pigs were his sons, and he knew with chilling certainty that they would not let his death go unavenged. When the news of their father's excruciating end reached his sons, their grief, as the Sagas tell it, was a terrible thing to behold. It twisted and curdled into a cold, calculated rage. It became a thirst for a retribution so complete, so absolute, that only blood could possibly slake it. This was the true catalyst for the invasion of the great heathen army. The Sagas don't frame this massive military campaign as a simple war of conquest. They frame it as a deeply personal vendetta. In 866, the storm finally broke. The great heathen army landed in East Anglia, marched north, and arrived at the gates of York, the capital of Northumbria. Their timing was impeccable. The kingdom was fractured by civil war between the deposed King Osbert and the usurper Ælla. Faced with this terrifying common enemy, the two rivals did the only thing they could. They forged a temporary, desperate truce and united their forces to confront the Vikings. On March 21, 867, they launched a full-scale assault on the city of York, which the Vikings had already captured. And it's here that the two versions of history diverge so violently. The Norse Sagas, fixated on their theme of righteous vengeance, tell a very specific story. They claim the battle was an utter catastrophe. For the Northumbrians, their army was annihilated. King Osbert was killed in the fray, and King Ælla, the man they had crossed an ocean for, was captured alive. This was exactly what the sons of Ragnar had prayed for. A quick, clean death in the heat of battle would have been a mercy. For the man who had subjected their father to the slow, creeping agony of a snake pit, a far more elaborate and symbolic punishment was required. According to the tale of Ragnar's sons, Ivar the Boneless and his brothers ordered Ælla to be subjected to the blood eagle. The text describes the act with a stark, chilling economy of words. They caused the bloody eagle to be carved on the back of Ælla, and they cut away all of the ribs from the spine, and then they ripped out his lungs. Another account from the 12th century Danish historian Saxo Grammaticus adds a layer of psychological torment, stating they performed the act while rejoicing to crush their most ruthless foe, by marking him with the cruelest of birds. And as the legend grew with each retelling, so did the horror. Later versions of the story would add even more gruesome details, like salt being rubbed into the massive, gaping wound to intensify the suffering. In the world of the Sagas, this wasn't just a messy, savage execution. It was a powerful ritual. Violence in the Viking world wasn't always chaotic. It could be a part of a highly organized system of retribution, a way to restore lost honor. The blood feud was a sacred duty, and the method of vengeance often mirrored the nature of the original crime. By killing Ragnar with snakes, Ælla had given him a bad death, a shameful, dishonorable end for a great warrior. The blood eagle, therefore, was a form of cosmic rebalancing. The eagle was a bird sacred to Odin, the All-Father, the god of war, death, poultry, and wisdom. By carving an eagle into Ælla's back, Ragnar's sons weren't just torturing their father's killer. They were performing a sacrifice, dedicating their enemy's soul to their chief god. It was the ultimate act of filial piety and righteous fury, a spectacle of pain and power designed to be remembered, retold, and feared for generations, a warning to any who would dare to wrong the sons of Ragnar Lodbrok. This is the story as the Vikings wanted it told, a tale of honor, revenge, and ritual violence that has defined our image of the blood eagle for 1,000 years.